Are you one of those people that think making an electric car is just as bad for the environment as a combustion engine vehicle? Check this video out. So the world is changing. The world has got to a bad place, and science knows this. The big oil companies know this. They've known it since the 80s. And we need to change. We need to change how we live, the way we buy things, etc. For me, I drive a diesel van for my dog walking business. I would love to be able to drive an electric van. I would love to get solar panels on the roof. For me personally, at the moment, it's too expensive. I can't justify all of a sudden having a monthly payment for a van. That's my circumstances. But I think I know, and a lot of people know, that things need to change. Just listen to David Attenborough. Most people trust him. But anyway, Robert Llewellyn, who does the Fully Charged YouTube channel, was asked to narrate this animation. It's open source, so anyone can show it, review it. Let's give it a watch for all those people that think electric vehicles do as much damage to the environment as fossil fuels. Let's give it a watch.
So the argument goes, electric vehicles don't pollute, but the electricity powering the electric vehicles does pollute. Some even say it pollutes even more than a gasoline or petrol burning car. If we're going to look beyond the EV itself to the energy that powers it, shouldn't we do the same for the fossil-fueled combustion car? So what goes into producing the fuel that you burn in your car every day?
A lot, I assume.
Gasoline or petrol starts as oil, on average 5,900 feet below the surface of the earth. A great deal of oil is extracted using what is called a pump jack. Pump jacks don't run by themselves. In most cases, they use electricity. It takes, on average, 9,960 kilowatt hours of electricity every month to drive one pump jack. To put that in context, that is enough electricity to power a Tesla Model 3 for 34,860 miles. In the United States, there are an estimated 435,000 oil wells using pump jacks.
I wouldn't have thought
estimated electricity use for these wells is over 4,300 gigawatt hours a month.
That's a lot of electricity.
That is a lot of electricity.
A lot of electricity.
Just to get the oil out of the ground.
Like it says, electricity just to get the oil out of the ground. Could we not use that electricity to not get the oil out and just use the electricity to power things?
If we used that electricity to power electric vehicles directly, it would be enough to power over 15 million electric vehicles for a month. That's just US oil wells on land. What about deep sea drilling? The most common way of powering an offshore oil rig is with a diesel generator. An average oil rig generator uses 20 to 30 metric tons of diesel per day.
I think about the pollution into the sea
is 300,000 kilowatt hours. There are an estimated 1,470 offshore oil rigs in the world using over 1.3 billion kilowatt hours of energy a month. All this oil pumping combined would be enough to power 19.5 million electric vehicles per month. This is just from the energy used to pump the oil out of the ground in the US and offshore. So not only does the fuel pollute when we burn it in our cars, we are also using a huge amount of electricity just to pump the oil that makes the fuel.
And this is the amazing thing. He's saying that, you know, you've got to think about with fossil fuel combustion engines, it's not just the burning of the fuel when you're driving. It's actually the cost to the environment when getting it out of the ground. You're using electricity to get the oil out of the ground, when straight away you could just be using that electricity to power the vehicle in the first place. One connection rather than, a web. The figures are just crazy. The numbers are insane.
Combining the pollution from the tailpipe emissions with the emissions generated to pump the oil out of the ground is not a pretty picture.
That bird's going to die. Thought so.
And pumping oil is not clean. Millions of gallons are spilled into the ocean every year, causing havoc for fish and other wildlife.
I like the animation.
That oil needs to be transported. Most of the oil is pumped through pipelines. There are over 337,000 miles of pipeline in the world, carrying most of the 100 million barrels a day we consume. These pipelines use pump stations that use even more energy.
Electricity and more electricity.
The oceans are unregulated as regards emissions, so ships use the cheapest, dirtiest fuel possible to keep costs down, making them one of the largest pollution sources on the planet. Shipping is responsible for an estimated 1 billion tonnes of CO2 per year, and 10% of that is shipping oil. Because these tanker ships pollute so much, many countries do not allow them to operate near their coastline, so they have to be towed into port where the oil is transferred to a refinery. Refining oil takes a huge amount of energy and generates even more pollution. Refining is done by heating oil up to 800 degrees Fahrenheit or 420 degrees centigrade. Heating 100 million barrels of oil a day to these temperatures requires an enormous amount of energy. Heating this oil generates so much pollution, refineries create a serious health hazard anywhere they operate. Refineries are the #1 pollution source in many major cities around the world. It is so bad that people living near these refineries have a marked increase of lung disease.
There's a lot of death in this video.
Once the oil has been refined, it is transported to fuel stations in diesel trucks, creating even more pollution.
All this before it even goes in a vehicle.
Then this fuel is burned in cars and trucks, right in our cities where we live and breathe. These cars and trucks have internal combustion engines that are extremely inefficient. 70% of the energy from burning fossil fuels is wasted as heat, while only 30% goes to turn your wheels. So after we use all that electricity pumping oil out of the ground, refining it, transporting it, we then waste 70% when we burn it. Fossil fuel production is an incredibly dirty, inefficient process from start to finish. When we contrast all this to powering an electric vehicle, the difference is very stark. Electricity does not need to be pumped from thousands of feet underground, transported with trucks or trains, or pumped along pipelines. It does not need to be shipped overseas. It does not need to be refined, and it is not polluting where we live and breathe. Even if electricity is produced from burning coal, the power plant is far away from population centres, transferred over power lines, keeping any direct pollution away from the population. And if the EV is powered with clean energy, it is clean from start to finish.
That's a huge point that he makes, that for getting the fossil fuels, imagine how much at the start, so right at the start, how much fossil fuel you've got, but then in the end, how much you've got left, how much is wasted. Is that same wastage there with electricity? I don't think so. Especially if you're using solar and wind, is there any wastage? I don't think so. If it's all going from wires straight to the source, surely there's very little wastage. And that's a huge thing. I'm enjoying the animations on this.
In the United States, 47% of electricity comes from sources that emit no CO2. In Europe, it is even better at 56%. And the percentage of clean energy is growing every year as coal and gas plants are being replaced by renewable energy sources.
I think, as I said, straight away from this, it shows countries can do it. The world can do it. We can change to renewable sources, wind, solar, for example. So we can do it, but it needs to be quicker. It needs to be quicker. But we can clearly do it.
So what about the lithium used in EV batteries?
Sorry, I keep stopping, but this is another thing that combustion engine fans like to say, oh, mining the lithium is worse than getting the oil out of the ground.
Lithium is a metal that is mined in the deserts of Australia, China, Argentina and Chile. Besides being a key ingredient in batteries, lithium is also ingested as a medicine for bipolar disorder. Much has been made about the environmental impact of lithium mining, but this is all a little bit overblown. Australia is the largest producer of lithium in the world. If there were any major environmental problems with this mining, some Australians would be talking about it. But what is Australia really talking about when it comes to pollution? Oil refining. Yes, oil refining is creating a much bigger environmental risk than all the lithium mining going on anywhere in the country. Australia is not a very densely populated country. They consume 1% of the world's oil supply and only refine 1/4 of the oil they consume.
Which isn't a lot.
But they mine 50% of the world's lithium.
That is a lot.
So a country that only refines 1/4 of 1% of the world's oil and mines 50% of the world's lithium, the biggest contributor to pollution and risk to human health in Australia is oil refineries. That does not even take into consideration the drilling, pumping, transporting and burning of this oil. This is just refining it. The more you look into it, the argument that battery production is somehow as bad as the cycle of fossil fuels is ridiculous. All the lithium mining in the world to date has not done anything like as much damage to the environment as just one major oil spill.
And we've all seen the damage. We've all seen this damage. The life that's been lost to oil spills.
So, what about the batteries? What happens to EV batteries when they get old and are discarded?
Oh, batteries die.
When no longer practical in an electric vehicle, the batteries can be used as energy storage to power a global business, giving them a second.
Quick point. If batteries deteriorate so quickly, why would car manufacturers quite often offer an 8-year warranty on a battery? When you buy a brand new car, they offer 8 years. Why would they do that if they think the battery's not going to last long? How often, for people that drive vehicles, how often do you keep your vehicle for normally? To be fair, over my period, I've probably had about 6 cars / vans, and I think the longest I've had is maybe 3 years. But the manufacturers are offering 8-year warranty. If your battery goes, I think it's something like below 90% capacity, they will replace it. So they must be pretty confident that your battery's going to be all right for at least 8 years.
Life. And when they're no longer any good for this, they are recycled, broken down to recover the valuable metals in these batteries to be used in the next generation of electric vehicles. It looks a bit silly to use so much electricity to pump oil out of the ground, create tons of pollution transporting and refining it,
When it could all
to
go
finally
directly
waste
to
70% of it
direct
burning it
source,
in our
to
cars when we could
homes
simply use that
and cars
electricity directly to power electric vehicles, eliminating the pollution from refining and burning oil in inefficient internal combustion engines. It is obvious when you look at the big picture. Oil production is a dirty, wasteful process, especially when compared to the alternative powering EVs with renewable electricity.
Look at that. That doesn't look too good. That looks a little better. I think I'm going to try this one out. Okay, yeah. Oh, nice inside. Wow. Oh, sorry. Wow, this thing's fast.
It's oil.
What can you do? One of the last obstacles preventing many people from going electric, besides misinformation, is people who live in apartments and condominiums
big
with
problem.
shared parking. Many of these residents have no way to install a car charger. If you are a lawmaker, sit on a city council or a local council, if you serve on the board of a housing association, if you own rental property, you can do something to help. Vote to install car chargers, or indeed install them yourselves in car parks or on the street, so people who live in apartments
People
can
are
have
doing
a
than
place
just
to charge
talking
their
about
electric
it. That's the
vehicle.
problem. People talk
There
about
are
it
companies
too
that
much,
even
rather
offer
than
ways for you
doing
to
it.
make a profit from these chargers. Support the taxing of fossil fuels and using the subsidies to support the shift to electric vehicles. With the right incentives and political will, change can happen very quickly. In Norway, they have made a huge shift to electric vehicles in a very short time.
They talk about the political side, and please tell me if I'm wrong. But in places like America, where the oil companies pay huge sums of money to the politicians to get them to vote in a certain way, and it's not just oil companies, it's things like big food companies, meat companies that pay the politicians to vote a certain way. So we need that system to change. You need politicians to be brave, I think. This is my opinion. You need politicians to be brave and stand up for what they believe in, not just rely on the money. I know that's hard. I know that's hard because money talks. These oil companies, they don't want to stop making the money in this old-fashioned way. That's the way they make money. But politicians have got to be brave and make changes. And sadly, that just doesn't happen. Who knows, it might do, but it's great to see places like Norway that maybe they've got a different political system, that they're less reliant on the big funds from these big companies. I don't know. Just speculative.
Vehicle sales in Norway have reached over 50% of all vehicles sold. Support the installation of solar panels wherever possible. Going solar is now cheaper than buying electricity from the grid and starts paying for itself from day one.
On this point of the solar panels, I think they're a great idea. For starters, all new homes should be fitted either with solar panels or solar tiles. It's a must. It's a must. New homes should be fitted with them straight away. We've got a scheme that's just been introduced. I don't know how well it will work. It's meant to happen in April in my local town, where they're doing like an auction where the solar companies are bidding to offer the best price, so to try and get the prices down lower. Because at the end of the day, in my current circumstance, me and the wife are in our home, but it's not our final home. Maybe we'll be here 2, 3, 4 years. But in that time, if the price of the solar is so high, we wouldn't have paid that off. So is it worth, at the current price, is it worth having these solar panels fitted at a cost? That's the problem. In modern life, we can't afford it. I think it makes more sense if you're in your final home, you're going to be there more than 10 years, for example. But that's another obstacle that needs to be overcome. And I'm hoping this scheme that our council is doing will get a good price. Doing it in quantity, for example, hopefully the price will be lower, make it more affordable for people. Because that's a huge problem at the moment with the solar panels and vehicles.
And if you are fortunate enough to own your own home, get an EV and install solar panels. You will save thousands on fuel and electricity and have the peace of mind knowing that you are not contributing to the horribly dirty oil and gas industry.
You might financially hurt yourself.
Share this video, post it to forums like Reddit, Nextdoor, Facebook and others to help spread the word. Lastly, this is an open source video. You are free to translate this video into another language for reposting. Contact us to download a version you can add a translated voiceover and text to. The day when our cities are clean of sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide and other toxic chemicals and particulates emitted from tailpipes and oil refineries can happen. We have the technology to do this now. Supporting this transition to electric transportation will bring this day closer to fruition. We hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and stay clean.
Going on. What's going to happen? Oh, just breathing. That reminds me of at the start of lockdown last year, when there were literally next to no vehicles on the road, and you would walk out, the noise, you're not hearing all the engines, you're not, the smell is as if you're in the countryside, which some people might not like, but it's nice, it's a change. People need to act, and I think by acting, it gets prices lower, which is the main thing quite often. I think that is the biggest problem. That I know in this, Robert Llewellyn said, for electric vehicles, the problem at the moment is the charging, but actually I think it's the price. I think that's bigger than the charging. I know people are saying they've got the fear, or they can't charge their vehicle and all this, but I think it's the price. For me, certainly, if it was cheaper, I would get it like that, because even if it's a monthly payment, I would get it quicker, because I know the benefits. I can see the benefits. I know how bad burning the fossil fuels is. Listen to David Attenborough. Everyone loves David Attenborough, so listen to him. And he's been saying it now for a long time, how it's destroying our planet. What do you think, guys? Are you one of these people that would love to get an electric vehicle, solar panels, but can't afford it? Are you one of these people that have got an electric vehicle, solar panels, and are seeing the benefits? Are you one of these people that is adamant that you will be having your fossil fuel burning vehicle combustion engine for a lot longer, and you refuse to go electric? Let me know. I'm open to all opinions. We all have them. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed. Like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you next time.